Hey guys, what's going on? Steven back again, and I still have a head cold, which is why I sound so terrible. But I am back with another Walking Dead video from the Thrifty Typewriter. So I am continuing on with his retrospective series, which has been fantastic, going through each season, kind of going over the pros, the cons of each season, discussing, what could have been done differently, maybe if they did this instead of that, or what if they, did this moment earlier or later in the season, stuff like that. So it's been a really good, I guess, series, if you will. So this one here is going over season 7, which apparently is dubbed by him the worst season of The Walking Dead, which I think pretty much all of us will agree is the worst season of The Walking Dead. Just the pacing of the season, it just felt like filler episode after filler episode after filler episode. This episode here is only with like these two characters. This episode here is only with these like one or two characters, and sometimes it would take weeks for you to see, whichever favorite character is yours, once again. For example, we saw pretty much all the characters in the first episode, and then, it might be 3, 4, 5 weeks later, and then you see, Eugene again, or Rick again, and of course, when you're watching the show week by week, it could be like a month until you see whichever favorite character of yours once again. Obviously it'll be different now if you just go and just, binge watch the entire season, which I'm sure probably helps, improve season 7, because, you can just go through each episode. But watching it live on TV and stuff like that, now it's like, great, I gotta wait till next week and, the week after, and finally then I get to see Rick again, and it just, I don't know. It was just bad. I don't know what happened. Like, I don't know if like Gimple just like lost his spark or what, because it's always been like a love-hate relationship with him in like the Walking Dead universe. As much as we want to fault him for how bad season 7 and season 8. I'd say the first half of season 8, the second half of season 8 actually wasn't too bad. He has given us some of the best seasons in the entire show, and some of the best episodes in the entire show. I think he took over season 4? Yeah, I think he took over in season 4. Or the second half of season 3. I don't remember when he took over. But I know at least it was season 4. Season 4 was really good. The governor was great and terrifying and an awesome villain. Season 5, fantastic season. Season 6, amazing. And then season 7, the first half of season 8, at least I think, was pretty meh. But the second half of season 8, not too bad, so yeah, I don't know what happened. Did he like run out of gas? Was it the 16 episodes just kind of took a toll on him? Maybe he, all right, I know how this season's gonna go. Point A, point B, I can do the whole story in 12 episodes. But AMC wants 16, so now I gotta stretch out, my story and stuff like that to fit the 16 episodes. So now I gotta throw some filler in there just to get to 16 episodes. I don't know. Or maybe just, I don't know, just ran out of gas. I'm sure there's only so many showrunners that can actually run a show from beginning to end with the show, being good, not, failing and stuff like that. And then maybe there's just some showrunners who are like, yeah, I can do like 3-4 seasons, and then, you know, after that, I get burned out. I just run out of gas, and I can't, maintain my level of show quality. For example, like Christopher Nolan, why I believe he stopped with the Batman series was because each Batman movie he did was doing better and better and better. So Batman Begins, great. What was it, The Dark Knight? Did even better than the first one. And then what was the third one? Dark Knight Rises did even better than that one. So if he did another one, it would have to be better than the previous one. It's like that's hard to do. I mean, they got expectations. Like, all right, your first movie did really well. Your second one did better than the first. Your third movie did better than the second one. So now your fourth should be better than the third one. I don't know. Maybe it's the same thing with a show. I don't know. Your guess is as good as mine. But anyways, let's get on to the video and take a look at season 7, the worst season of The Walking Dead. Here we go.
Who are you?
Negan.
Who are you?
Negan.
Who are you?
I'm Prison Mike!
Season 7 of The Walking Dead was a huge turning point, both in the characters' lives and the audience's lives. It saw a massive drop-off in viewers.
Yeah, it did.
It saw a lot of viewers lose faith in the show, even if they kept watching it, and it turned hardcore fans of the show, who once watched religiously every week, into casual fans by the end of it, myself included. Now, a big argument with this season is how most shows that go on this long reach a peak and then drop off. So is Season 7 a result of the show hitting its peak and casually falling off in viewership, or is it the result of something worse? Today we go over the premiere episode.
Also, the rise of binge watching. Honestly, most shows now, I'd rather just wait and just binge watch them. Even with streaming shows doing week by week episodes, I'm just gonna wait. I'm not gonna go week by week anymore. I'll just wait and binge watch them. Like, I have a show coming out at the time that I'm recording this. I think Sunday, I think, on Apple TV, called Silo. If you haven't seen it, I definitely check it out. It's actually really good. And it's starting up, I think Sunday, this Sunday at the time I'm recording this, I think the 17th. And they're going to do week by week. I'm just going to wait until the show's over, go right through season 1, right into season 2. I'm not going to do week by week anymore. So I think that also may have attributed to The Walking Dead's decline, because I'd rather just wait until the season's over and then just go right through and go episode by episode, not week by week anymore.
The snail's pace that Season 7 introduced, and the introduction to the all-out war arc in the comics. We're also going to be going over why I believe Season 7 of The Walking Dead is by far the worst season of the show.
Which I think everybody agrees.
Weapons, look out for that CGI deer, and let's talk The Walking Dead Season 7.
What were they thinking with that deer? Like, who gave the okay to be like, yeah, that's good? I mean, yeah, I guess Shiva
So whenever I talk about this opening episode and subsequently the Season 6 finale, I see a lot of people now who look back fondly on the cliffhanger, saying, oh, it was really great. It made people want to watch the next episode. Yeah, that was never the problem. The show always made you want to watch the next episode, whether there was a cliffhanger or not. But this new wave of Walking Dead fans over the last years who watch the show on Netflix and think of the season finale of Season 6 and the Season 7 opener as a wonderful two-parter. But the thing is, this wasn't a two-parter. Sure, it feels that way because it's seemingly written as a two-parter, but those of us who watched the show as it came out did not get to just click next episode. The Season 6 finale gets a very bad rap rap because of the cliffhanger, and if you look at all the reviews, all the recent ones say, oh, it's a great episode with a great cliffhanger, but all the older fans, like myself, are still very hurt by this cliffhanger. And I will always defend my stance that this is a bad cliffhanger. Call me bitter or salty or whatever, but this cliffhanger
it would have been different if it was like a
absolutely
mid-season
killed the show
finale.
when it first came
Then you
out,
only had to wait like
and
3
made
months
fans
to see
lose
the
faith in
premiere
the
again,
show.
which would
Pair
have been
this
part
with some
2
other questionable things
instead of
in
like
season
an entire
6,
year.
like the Glenn fake-out death, the pacing breakup with Morgan's episode, Daryl getting shot in the episode before this, and making us think he was going to be really hurt just for it to mean absolutely nothing. I mean, he literally never gets any on-screen help for this bullet wound. It just kind of disappears. There were a lot of moments of fabricated stakes or suspense, and the cliffhanger was the worst example of that. The moment the ratings dipped even the slightest in season 6, they wanted to do something to try and get a bunch of new audience members to watch, and I'll hand it to them. Their gimmick worked. For one episode.
Yeah,
the
pretty
season
much.
7 premiere is the second highest viewed episode in the entire show. Why? Because people wanted to see who Negan killed, but once that question was answered, any new viewers the show was trying to pick up didn't go past this point because they were satisfied with the kills that they saw on screen. Wouldn't the better marketing question going into this season be, how is Rick gonna come back from all this? All of the marketing around the season was built around the first episode, and after that was over, it was kind of like, okay, now what? If we had seen Abraham die in the season 6 finale, market the show around Negan's regime and how our group can possibly defeat him, it would have, at the very least, given people a reason to stick around longer. And they could have opened the episode on Glenn's death and give people an even bigger reason to want to buy into how Rick and the group are going to come back from all this.
Yeah,
sure,
that's true.
You can think that this is a good cliffhanger. I don't, and I never will, because I think how the show was handled during this crucial time ultimately led to the loss of even more viewers. Oh, you're wondering what my thoughts are on the deaths, and I've made you wait a few minutes longer? Yeah, imagine that, but on a scale of several months. And several more minutes from when the episode starts, as if you haven't waited long enough. Now we have to rebuild all the stress of that moment, a moment that was executed to perfection the first time around, so let's just redo that scene, but from different angles. I gotta take a moment to shout out Big Man Abraham, who doesn't ever get the respect he deserves, almost like these 2 episodes were handled very poorly, I don't know. In retrospect, it's incredibly obvious that he would be Negan's pick. He doesn't cower away from him, he all but vocally volunteered to be this death, and he doesn't get nearly enough love or attention from this death.
And he was a great
from this
character.
Sacrifice. It flips his goodbye scene with Eugene because now it's farewell to Abraham and not Eugene like we thought, and that's honestly very clever writing. R.I.P. Abraham, you left a very big hole in the show when you left, and you're not talked about nearly as much as you should be. Also,
Such a
what
shame.
did the Sasha and Abraham romance do exactly? Why was it necessary for him to break up with Rosita and then be with Sasha? Abraham could have went on the exact same journey that he went on, but with Rosita. It's not like either one of these couples was particularly budding with chemistry, so why change it? Oh, because Sasha didn't have a storyline. Let's just have her be the love interest to...
Oh, I don't know. That guy.
So now we know who was killed. Alright, let's move on. Oh, no, wait. Daryl has to make the dumbest decision in the show and hit Negan with the arm that just hours earlier he was shot in the shoulder. So now we get the big death. Glenn's death was a big swing.
I mean, I get it.
and
He was
a miss.
taunting
Not
Rosita
literally,
and stuff like that.
But I don't blame them for
You
doing
know.
it. It was what happened in the comics. They wanted to try and be faithful to the source material,
Right.
and they said that
Which
they
is
tried
important.
playing around with different storylines if he survived, but it affected too much of the story. I don't know how true that is, but I think that in a way it made so much sense for it to be Glenn's character. The intent was for Glenn's death to be this hugely impactful death that the audience would want to see the downfall of Negan and put us in that place mentally that lusted for revenge, and on paper, I actually don't think that Abraham's death alone would have incited that.
No.
I think it had to be a character like Glenn or even Daryl to make us feel a strong enough hatred for Negan. Imagine if it had been Daryl. Would Academy Award nominated actor Steven Yeun be in a Glenn Rhee TV show instead? And Glenn's
That'd
death
be kinda
did
interesting.
cause a huge impact
Not
on the
gonna
show,
lie.
but not the one that they were hoping for. While I often make fun of when the show highlights a character in their death episode or the episode right before their death, they didn't do that for Glenn, who is probably the biggest death in the entire show, but his final few episodes weren't really anything special. In his final episodes, he didn't get a very big scene with Maggie, he killed people, which was something he actively avoided doing throughout the entire apocalypse, and went out searching for Daryl just to find him and try to leave to go home. In the season 6 finale, Glenn has like 2 lines. In this episode, he had 1 line, so his last proper episode where he has a lot of screen time is in the episode East. But he doesn't particularly have a lot of lines or scenes in that episode either.
Jeez.
Because of this, Glenn doesn't really get a complete character arc. And I hate the argument when people say, this is The Walking Dead, anybody can die at any time. You know a show that also totes that same line? Game of Thrones, yet all the main characters that die in that, at least in the first few seasons, have complete character arcs, and their deaths are for more than just shock value. They actually change the story. The reason why all these deaths in Game of Thrones work is because of how well-paced each episode was.
Right.
So let's move on to The Walking Dead season 7's biggest enemy, pacing. Watching this season week to week was an absolute chore. I say this a lot in these videos, but from seasons 4 to 6, every Sunday in my house was like the Super Bowl because there were so many people coming over to watch the episode and talk about it afterwards. And by the end of season 7, there was me, my mom, my dad, and my best friend. From 15 to 20 people every week to 4. This was because most people stopped watching the show because they didn't care and it was too slow. We wanted to see Rick rally the troops and want to fight back, and it's...
I mean, I understand, you know, you can't just have them be like, okay, boom, all right, we're gonna fight now. No, you gotta have them... I don't know, you gotta have them, like, suffer for a little while. You know, you can't just be like, oh, they just killed Glenn and stuff like that, look how strong they are, and be like, all right, we're gonna go kill them all. You know, it just would be a little awkward after, you know, everything the group has been through, just running through everything, and now all of a sudden just hit this brick wall, you know, that is Negan, and then just being like, oh, look at that, they just killed 2 of our people. Well, now I'm going to kill them all now. You know, no, you got to have them, you know, kind of get a dose of reality and like, okay, maybe we're not all that, you know, strong and powerful or, you know, something like that. But you got to make them suffer for a little bit before, all right, now we need to fight. You know, I get that.
Kind of hard to do that when across the first half of the season, Rick is only in half of the episodes. We also get 5 of these 8 episodes that take place with one storyline in one location. We set up the kingdom, we set up the sanctuary, we set up Oceanside, we check in at Alexandria, we check in at the hilltop, and after these 5 episodes, we are barely further along than we were at the end of episode 1. None of these episodes have any particular standout moments other than character introductions, not to mention the tone of this season is just so wildly all over the place. The first half of season 6 felt urgent and emotional, and the stakes were very high. The second half felt like an impending doom was coming. Our characters were very confident, but the tone made us think that something was going to go wrong very soon. Right. Season 7 has all this setup for so many different things in the first half, and the second half has a bit more cohesion with coming together, but it still suffers from pacing and boomerang storytelling. But there is a good aspect to this season that the other seasons didn't have, and that is, of course, Negan, or should I say Jeffrey Dean Morgan as Negan. His charisma and performance gives us this character that we love to hate. And sure, I see some of the complaints that he's a big, over-the-top, cartoony villain, but I actually like that aspect, especially during this rewatch. I found myself really looking forward to his scenes, and then kind of looking at my phone to take all these notes when there were other episodes with storylines I didn't care about. So I'm just going to rapid fire a few of my thoughts on these episodes in the first half of the season. Episode 2, I think Ezekiel and his over-the-top personality with Shiva and leading the kingdom is really great, and Carrie Payton is really great as Ezekiel. We also get Jerry, and who doesn't love Jerry? They also feed pigs walkers to trade to the saviors. shouldn't this start a whole sickness arc once again at the sanctuary, like what happened at the prison? Episode 3, a lot of really interesting ideas in this episode. I think that Dwight had huge possibilities of becoming a great and fan-favorite character, and I like him in this episode. The idea of a captured Daryl and breaking him down to become one of Negan's men is also really interesting. It would have been absolutely incredible for Daryl to become a double agent and join Negan, and it's honestly really stupid that he didn't. The Sanctuary is an interesting place, and seeing how Negan runs it and how terrified people are gives you an additional feeling of hopelessness. But in terms of all the one storyline episodes, I actually think that this is probably the best one. Episode 4 proves that things get worse before they get better. This episode is almost more disheartening than the previous episodes, seeing everything that Rick and the Alexandrians have built all being taken over the course of a single afternoon. In a lot of ways, this episode is incredibly effective. Negan is equally charming and terrifying, and Rick is broken beyond repair. Right. Anyone who had an issue with The Ones Who Live and how Rick acted in that show, and how Michonne had to come in and change his mind, how it's out of character for him, just do yourself a favor and rewatch this episode and this season in general. Right. This episode also started Rosita having an actual character arc and presence in this story outside of being a love interest, and I sure hope that that continues. I also think this would have been better had Daryl shown up being part of the Saviors with both Rick and the audience not yet knowing he's undercover. Episode 5. I guess it's cool to check in on Maggie in the hilltop, see her confront Gregory, but I don't particularly care about this Carl and Enid romance, and this is overall a pretty uneventful episode. Episode 6. This was at one point the lowest rated episode of the series, but honestly, I had more fun watching this episode than I did the last one. It's very obvious with the amount of guns that these women have, where the direction of the story is going from here, and again, I think that this could have been combined with like the last 4 episodes.
I'm sure one day we'll find out about that PPP
with
card.
All this information and multiple storylines,
one day
the show wouldn't have felt as slow as it is. It's also a famous episode for being Heath's last appearance and the first appearance of the PPP card, both of which we're still waiting for some sort of resolution to, and this episode came out in 2017.
One day.
Episode 7. This is actually a good episode. Rosita having an actual character arc is making me think differently of her this time around. I think Carl going on a suicide mission to the Sanctuary offers a lot of great moments and offers the full glimpse of the storyline AMC wants us all to forget. Again, I think this sets up a really great dynamic between Negan and Carl, and it's followed through for the next episode, and they say that it follows through in storylines and episodes after that, but it really doesn't. It's also
still
the first bit of humanity that we
Negan
see out of Negan with how he treats Carl. Episode 8, definitely the second best episode of the season. I had forgotten how great of a character Gregory is.
Simon.
Great in the sense that he's despicable and I hate everything about him, but that also makes for a great character.
Simon was
People don't
awesome.
think about that one too much. You need hateable characters just as much as you need lovable characters.
True.
And Gregory fills that itch more than maybe any other character in the show does. This episode also has all storylines, which is fantastic. It makes the pacing much better and shouldn't be delegated to something only mid-season finales or big episodes have. But The Walking Dead had largely forgotten that at this point. This episode also has the most ridiculous moment in all of The Walking Dead, and that's when Rosita misses her shot and it hits Lucille instead. Maybe this is why I don't like Rosita, because when she gets interesting, she contributes to the worst scene in the series. And I mean that. This is the dumbest
3 feet away from
the odds of
him,
this
hit a
ever
bat.
happening are insane,
I mean, still,
and it feels like this scene is out of a
impressive shot
cartoon.
to just
Also, why would
dead center
Negan
of
think that
bat,
somebody
but still.
made this bullet? Why not that somebody found it? Negan is smart, but he's definitely not smart enough to know the difference between an actual bullet and then one that was recently made. I don't care what you tell me, it seems like something that was convenient for the plot, so they just kind of went with it. But hey, at least at the end of this episode, we see the group come together to finally want to start trying to fight back. We get the emotional reunion between Daryl and Rick, which I'm hoping we'll get to see a similar scene
a few
sometime
words there
soon,
for Daryl.
and Daryl giving back the Colt Python to Rick, which is great symbolism, probably one of the best scenes in the series. So that marks the halfway point of the season. Let's go over what happened, shall we? Glenn and Abraham die. Carol and Morgan learn about the kingdom. Daryl is a prisoner. Tara learns about Oceanside. Alexandria gets robbed. Maggie is sad. Carl and Rosita want to fight back against Negan, though they both fail. Daryl escapes, Negan feeds Carl spaghetti, the group wants to fight back. That's it. And that doesn't sound like enough to fill half a season. In fact, that sounds like the synopsis for like an episode or two of the show. Am I exaggerating to make a point
probably
right
like
now?
6 episodes
yes,
worth.
I am, but even if I went through a very detailed point-by-point progression of the story, it would be far less than anything that happened in any half season before this. This half of the season really only set up what we already knew was going to happen, the group finding the will to fight back. But now that we're all at this point, it's time for a break. Now, I'm not saying that this is a badly written season. I actually think that splitting up the group into different communities and homes is really interesting and allows us to see the broader approach of the world. I think that the story and the events that transpire lead to a pretty natural reaction from everybody to gather that courage and want to fight back. Right. There's also a lot of scenes that could have been cut out and the story would remain the same. Did we really need to see multiple different scenes of Daryl getting tortured to see the point? Did we need an entire episode about Negan stopping by Alexandria to take their stuff? Multiple scenes of Carol saying that she's done fighting and wants to be left alone?
To show Negan's,
there is so much
dominance
excess
over
fat
him
in these episodes that, if they were slimmed down and combined, could have made for some really great episodes of television. If some of the fat of the scenes was trimmed down and we get this whole reunion, say, at the end of episode 5, go into the groups all meeting and their first fight with the Saviors be the mid-season finale, the second half covering the start of All Out War could have been the greatest season in all of The Walking Dead. But that's not what happened. So let's take it back a bit and go over the second half of season 7.
I think the 16 episodes is what really hurt.
Rapid-fire thoughts on each episode. Episode 9.
I think that's what it was. Some of the 16 episode seasons just really, hurt it. I'm not saying like some seasons could have, did fine with 16 episodes, but some seasons maybe not. I'm sure they could have, maybe done this season here in 12 episodes. It's a shame that, they just didn't let them do however many episodes, like, the season, just would have been like, hey, I can do this, I can do season 7 in 12 episodes, okay, cool, season 7 is just going to be 12 episodes, maybe season 8, well, I can do this in 16 episodes, okay, then season 8 will be 16 episodes, no, it's got to be 16, it's got to be 16, so stretch it out. I'm sure that probably hurt. I'm sure it would have been better if, AMC just let them do whatever in how many episodes they actually need. If they needed 12, all right, do 12. I think that hurt it.
It's cool to see everybody meeting, but the plot kind of stalls when Ezekiel says no to helping them. The first half of the season was spent setting up why they all need to fight, including the kingdom, but no, the plot still needs to stall and there has to be some more holdout. The scene of getting the explosives and the whole line of walkers getting split in half is really cool.
That was awesome.
It's a little silly, but
badass.
It's really cool, and honestly something I forgot about until watching this episode again. Episode 10. The trash people. What a sign of the times this was. When the show started turning into trash, we meet the people associated with it. I absolutely hate how they all talk like Kevin from The Office in that one episode.
So me think, why waste time? Say lot word when few word do trick.
Gabriel also proved this season how far he's come, and he became one of the best characters in the show. I mean, that's not that hard because this season especially feels
Father G's
so
always been
empty.
a good character.
I think it's the combination of two fan favorites being gone and everybody being separated and the overall vibes being really low, but the season has a sort of emptiness to it that I can't quite explain. It reminds me of some people's complaints on The Last of Us Part 2, how it just makes you feel miserable so you don't want to play it. I think that's a very valid criticism, and one that I share when it comes to this season of The Walking Dead. Episode 11. So, I didn't remember this episode. Not in the sense that I had forgotten the events of it, I just straight up did not remember anything about this episode because I don't think I've ever watched it. I don't know how it's possible because I was watching this week to week when it was coming out, but maybe at this point I was starting to not care and accidentally missed a week, but watching this episode for what is probably the first time, I really enjoyed it. Maybe that's just me speaking from the point of view that it's like I got to see a new
Eugene
episode of the
living the
show,
life.
or maybe this is just a good episode. I remember thinking that both Eugene and Dwight's turn was really quick, but maybe that's because I never saw this episode. This episode actually sets up and makes both of their turns really well done, and you can see where both of them are coming from and why they make the decisions that they do. So overall, pretty great. Episode 12. This is a very famous or infamous episode because of one thing: the CGI deer. Compared to previous episode 12s and even future episode 12s, this one is a stinker. This is primarily focused on showing us the Rick and Michonne chemistry, so I guess in that regard it is a pretty important episode, but we also see Tara contemplating telling the others about Oceanside, and honestly, I like this storyline. I like that there's this dark horse community that could solve all their issues and how somebody has to deal with the decision to inform the rest of the community or not. The execution, I feel,
But
could
Tara
be
wanted to
better,
keep her
but on
promise.
paper, I still like it. But this episode is super cheesy and makes me be like, okay, what is this show turning into? It also shows us how stupid walkers have become and how they aren't even really a threat anymore. They're just an obstacle, literally, for this episode.
Well, we've pretty
Episode
much always
13,
been.
you can add Benjamin to the list of characters who get a bunch of screen time in the episode that they're killed off in. I don't think this is a bad episode, but this is also the episode that changed the course of the series for the worse. And that's all I'm going to say about that right now. I'll get more into this whole conversation that I've been building up to for the past 3 videos now when I cover season 8. Also, we're 3 episodes from the finale, and it's taken this long for everybody to agree to want to fight back. What is this season? I honestly hate the whole Rosita and Sasha frenemies storyline. I didn't buy into either of their relationships with Abraham, so I just don't think any of this is entirely necessary. I actually think it would be a better storyline if it didn't have this whole black cloud of both of them dating Abraham over it. Also, a whole nother episode doing the same hiding from the saviors gimmick that we already saw in a different episode this season. Watching these last couple episodes
they got to do a
has
lot of
been
hiding.
an absolute painful experience, and I can see why the show lost its charm on me and so many other people starting with this season. If I didn't know the show got better as it went on, this would be a hard show to continue, even from a binge-watching standpoint. Episode 15,
really?
I think this is another example for the people who think that the group aren't the good guys. Yes, they do have good intentions, but they're still coming to another group and
they're doing it in
stealing
the
quite
wrong
literally
way.
every gun they have, exactly what the Saviors did to them earlier in the season. Sasha pretending to join Negan and going along with everything just to try and get her opening to strike makes me really appreciate Sasha's character and like her a lot more, which is unfortunate because this is ultimately what leads to her death. But another pretty great episode. Why? Because it has multiple storylines in one episode. I feel like this is a trend. Every good episode this season has multiple points of view. It's almost like pacing in a story, and moving the story forward is important. And Dwight
Dipshit
switching sides
training.
is such a great storyline, and it comes way too late into the season. Episode 16, we get a flashback of Abraham. Dwight's confrontation scene is great. Tara straight up wants him dead, Daryl wants to kill him because of his own personal reasons, and Rick is kind of just letting this happen because he knows that Daryl needs this moment, and when Daryl lowers the knife, Rick immediately steps up to take control again. I actually think that this is a great written scene and shows so much between the characters but doesn't tell you how to feel or what it is they're doing. This is something that was lost this season, but was present in every other season before this. While the pacing of this episode is good, and it does bring together everyone and everything from this season, it also feels very bland. This episode feels like it could have and should have been the mid-season finale, and it would have been better, but
Yeah,
still
probably.
not great. I absolutely cannot get over how stupid this final fight is. It has some cool stuff like Shiva and the trash
Yeah, that
people
was
switching
cool.
sides was a good twist, but
Yeah.
this whole fight feels like something from a completely different show. Pair that with the horrible choreography and the absolutely ridiculous music that is way too over the top with magical whimsy. It sounds like something from Harry Potter. The season does end, not really on a
can see
cliffhanger,
that
but on
now.
a scene that makes you want more. They're going to war, and we're excited to see that.
Next
At least
year.
for those of us that have stuck around. Overall, I thought maybe with some time I'd look back at this season more fondly, but if anything, the exact opposite happened. I enjoyed the season even less than I did the first time around. I think the first time around I was just hoping for the season to finally hit its stride and that, oh, maybe next week's episode would be
season
better.
Premiere,
but knowing how I felt about
finale,
the season going into it and knowing
premiere,
that this whole season is
season
just
finale.
an utter mess, it made watching
really
it for the second time a far less enjoyable experience than I had hoped. There's a lot of great ideas presented in this season. The introduction to all the other communities with double agents involved, seeing different members who haven't had prominent roles in the past get a bigger role here because they're the ones who want to fight back. It all sounds really great on paper, and some of it is executed very well, but to me, I think the negatives far outweigh the positives in this season. And that's a very strange opinion to have, considering I think Season 6 is the best season of the show. Having the one right after it be the worst season is almost unheard of. But when the thing people remember the most from this season is the premiere episode, it's like everything else after that single hour is just downhill. Pair the marketing with the emptiness that this season fills you with, and you have
because everything was just marketed around who's Negan killing.
After this first
one
episode,
person,
you can
two
literally
people.
just be like, so the rest of the season is about them banding together and wanting to fight back, and then just skip to season 8. Now I know, because I typically have a pretty positive outlook on this show, that this video might make a lot of people angry. And I am sorry for that, but I also wasn't about to make a video talking about like the 3 things that I enjoyed from this season and just leave out my thoughts on all the bad.
Right.
So prepare your keyboards, everyone, because my rating for this season of The Walking Dead is a 5.5 out of 10. Feel free to let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I'm sure many of you will not agree with me, and let me know why that is, especially if you loved this season, because I'm genuinely curious to hear some
right
other
there. I just don't understand the whole.
Thanks for watching the video. Make sure to subscribe and watch the rest of my retrospective videos, both in the past and the upcoming
people
ones.
in companies
Shout out to
do
my
that,
channel
like,
members. You got.
Oh yeah, this game's a 7.5. All right, well, what would have given it a 7? What would have gotten it 8? You know, what gave it that 0.5? You know, so I kind of hate it when people in companies like do that. Like, oh, this is so good. This was like, you know, a 9.5. Well, what would have made it a 9 then? What would have made it a 10? You know, what was good enough that it got that half point, but not the whole point? You know. But yeah, anyways, another really good video. Yeah, you know, pretty spot on. Season 7 was just not good, you know. Like I said before, I think it would have been better if it was only like 12 episodes. You know, they probably would have done, you know, the whole rising up, reuniting and stuff like that, you know, in episode 6, or maybe even, or maybe even the, you know, that battle scene, you know, could have been the season 6 mid-season finale, you know, had it been 12 episodes. But yeah, I don't know. It is still strange that, you know, like you said, coming off of season 6 being one of the best seasons in the show to now being the worst season. You know, and yeah, I guess looking back now, the marketing for at least the first half was just all on who did Negan kill? You know, who was the chosen one? Who did, you know, who Negan killed? Who was selected? You know, eeny, meeny, miny, mo. It wasn't really anything else after that, you know, until the second half of the season, you know, where it's all right, we need to rise up. We never, you know, come together, you know, it's time to fight, you know, and all that stuff. So yeah, just kind of like a mix of just bad marketing and you know, just the slow paced episodes, and even like you said, right at the beginning, you know, Rick was only in a couple of episodes, episode 1, and then I don't remember where he posted it. I think it was like episode 4. So yeah, he had to wait like 3 weeks to see Rick once again. And of course, when you're watching the show, you know, week by week, that's kind of a long time to. Yeah, I don't remember. Oh, there it is. Back a little bit more. Yeah. episode 4, 7, and 8. So yeah, we see Rick here, and then you go, well, I guess, yeah, 2 weeks. Either way, that's still a long time. Then you see Rick again, then you gotta wait another 2 weeks, but 3, I guess. 2, 3 weeks, I guess, depending on however you want to count it. Once again, to see Rick once again, so, and yeah, watching it week by week, it's just like, like, well, I don't see him this week. Maybe I'll see him next week. Nope, I don't see him this week. Maybe I'll see him next week. Okay, now I do see him. Well, I won't see him next week. Maybe next week. Nope. But maybe next week I will. Yes. And it's just... No. And yeah, I don't know. I mean, I haven't rewatched the show from the beginning. I just binge watch it. I don't know. He said it wasn't good, even binge watching it. But I don't know. Maybe. I'd have to go back and rewatch it and see if it does improve a little bit, because now I'm not waiting, 2-3 weeks to see him again. I'm only waiting like 2 hours, so maybe it'd be a little different. So I don't know. But anyways, it was another really good video. Yeah, just one of the worst seasons ever. Just wish we knew what went wrong, what happened. Did Gimple just run out of fuel, run out of gas, lost his spark, or did he think, hey, I could do this whole season, like I said before, I could do this whole season in 12 episodes, point A to point B, whole story done in 12 episodes, and AMC is like, nope, we need 16 episodes, every season, every season, 16 episodes. Well, then it's like, well, now I gotta pad all this stuff out, and well, I mean, I could have combined like these 2 episodes here into one, and then like these 2 episodes into one, and these 2 episodes into one, or maybe these 3, I don't know, and it's like, it could have been like 6 episodes right here, but now they want 8, so now I gotta drag this out. So this is gonna be an entire episode. Daryl in the prison and stuff like that, and Sanctuary, well, that's gonna be a whole episode, and then Negan coming along and messing everything up in Alexandria, well, that's gonna be a whole episode on its own. Alright, so that kind of pads it out a little bit, when it's like, yep, could have shown like these 2, well, actually, yeah, maybe, oops, yeah, maybe these 2, because you can't really have, you can't really show Daryl and Sanctuary. Well, yeah, I guess you could have. Yeah, I guess you could have actually combined those 2 there. You could have had Daryl and Negan, in the first half, and then Negan leaves to go to Alexandria, and then, kind of the second half of the episode could have been him arriving in Alexandria and stuff like that. I guess it could have worked, but. I guess we'll never know. It is what it is, but it is done. It is over with. No going back, no changing. So, yeah. So anyways, there we go. There is the video. Season 7, the worst season of The Walking Dead. Do you agree or disagree? What do you think could have been done differently? Do you think the show could have been done in 12 episodes and AMC was just like, no, we need 16. You do it in 16. Or do you think Gimple just lost his spark, just ran out of gas, just... I did 3 great seasons, and now it's like I don't know really what to do anymore, and now I'm just running on empty, or if it was something else, let me know. But other than that, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, hit that thumbs up button. That'd be awesome. Remember, feel free to subscribe to my channel. Follow me on social media. Links in the description box below. And, of course, leave me all your thoughts and comments. And other than that, just stick around. I look forward to doing Season 8 and seeing what he says about that. So, yeah, just stick around. More videos are on the way. And I will see you guys next time.